I'm going to give you a lesson today that can completely change your enjoyment level when you're playing music. Now, I want you to tell me if this resonates with you down below in the comments. What is your internal experience of playing? Are you judging yourself? By that I mean, let's say you're improvising and you play a wrong note or you fail at a technique. What's going on in your head? Are you beating yourself up? Oh, I'm so stupid, I couldn't do this. Or, oh, I needed to do this later. Or, I played a wrong note there. Oh, or I need to practice more. Anything like that. Is that going on in your head? Because it might be. It is for a lot of people. I would say most people. I mean, I work with students, real people, and I see how this experience plays out for them. And I like this as a topic, and I talk to people like, what is your lived experience? And very often the answers I get is that I'm playing something and I'm always thinking about like, oh, what riff can I put in here? And I played something wrong and I'm beating myself up over it. Or I need to go practice my vibrato more because it really sucks. You know, that's the kind of language I hear from people. And I think this is kind of a shame. I mean, we play music because we enjoy it, don't we? Or at least we want to. It's a cool way to find new opportunities, and it is fun and can be very satisfying on an emotional level, but it's also a vehicle for self-growth. And that's why I really want you to stick with me in this lesson, because this is an area that you may be able to grow in, and I have some tools that can help you. I have an exercise I'm going to share with you in a minute. Now, I might be a weird person to give this lesson because I don't have an internal monologue. I don't have this process in my brain running every day, telling me what I should do, telling me that I'm stupid because I didn't do this, or congratulating myself. That's not the case for me. My mind is blank, and I also don't have the ability to visualize. These are both common characteristics for people with a type of neurodivergence called aphantasia. It literally means the lack of fantasy. I can't imagine things, but the result of that is that I'm in the moment pretty much all the time. I mean, I can still consciously think about things, but I'm in the moment. And what this means for me is that it's very easy for me to get into a flow. It's very easy for me to enjoy myself because my default state is not beating myself up. However, I'm not perfect. I've had moments where I've been beating myself up because, like you, at one point, I was a beginner in music. And it really wasn't till one particular exercise that a teacher did with me in the past that really changed everything and changed how I actually experience music. And after I learned that lesson, I didn't really think about it much in the moment, but thinking back on it years later, I love playing because I'm here. I'm not judging myself anymore. And not only that, I found something to focus on that allows me to enjoy the experience so much more. And think about it. When you play, what do you focus on? Really think about it. Are you focused on the riffs that you're playing? Are you like thinking where you can slot things in? Are you focused on like, I got to be playing using this scale? And hey, scales are good, and I think they will help you become a better player, and you can learn more about them with my scale cheat sheet, link in the description. But often it's not stuff like scales that really will make the difference. They're very helpful. They'll give you that base level of skill, which you need. But if that's all you're focusing on when you're playing, you're not really having fun, right? You're just thinking, oh, here's the system and I got to lock onto it. We're going to try to change that way of thinking, okay? So I have an exercise here that one of my favorite music teachers did with me years ago, and it is about how you control your focus when you play. And you can think of this kind of like you would with meditation. I don't know if you've ever meditated before, but the basic idea of meditation is that you choose something to focus on. Often that is your breath. That could be a mantra that you're repeating, or it could be something a little bit more free form, like scanning your body or something like that. Okay, so that's generally the idea of meditation. Now, in meditation, when you lose focus, when your mind wanders, you pull it back to the thing that you're focusing on, like your breath or a mantra. And when you play music, you gotta think in this way. I mean, this is how I process music, because even though I don't have an internal monologue, I still lose focus. right? And I've needed to learn a way to pull myself back, and it's really important. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share with you an exercise that will help you pull yourself back. And the effect of that is you're going to be more in the moment. You're going to enjoy the music more, because when you're in the moment, you're not thinking about your mistakes and you're not thinking about what's coming up. You're not thinking about scales. You're not thinking about riffs. You're thinking about your experience. In fact, you're really not thinking about anything at all. You're just in it. And that's what I want for you. I want you to be in it. And I don't think a lot of people experience that too often. You may get a taste of it every once in a while. And I'm sure that you've had, if you've, improvised, and sometimes you really feel it, but often it's just a little small second that you have that experience and then it's gone. What I want to help you with is making that feeling where you really feel like you're in it and you're enjoying and you're like, oh, this feels great. I want you to make that almost all the time, not just one brief little moment. Okay? So this is the exercise. And if you really want to get anything out of this video, you got to do the exercise. This is not something that you could just hear and be like, oh, no, you got to do it, because your brain might not work in the way that you think it works. That was the case for me. When I did this exercise as a student in college, I thought I was an audio thinker. We'll talk about the thinking modes before, and I realized I actually thought in a different way. And once I found that different way that I thought in, and I realized that that's what my focus needed to be when I was playing, I just enjoyed music so much more, and I was so much more present, and all of the self-talk that I did engage in just dropped away. So when I started playing harmonica, even though I found it difficult, especially the mechanical side of things, I found it difficult, but I always had fun. I can't remember a single day where I didn't have fun, where I didn't enjoy it, because I knew how to keep myself in the moment and prevent myself from doing all this self-talk that holds a lot of people back. So here's the exercise, and to understand it, you need to understand the ways that people think. And this may be an oversimplification, but let's just say it for the sake of the exercise, people think in three ways. People think visually, they think audially, and they think kinesthetically. So visual, obviously, you think with your eyes or your ability to visualize, which I don't really have, or at least I didn't grow up with it because I've kind of learned a way around that. If you think audially, you're thinking through sound. You are taking in the world mostly through what you hear. If you find yourself gravitating to podcasts and to audio books, or you don't watch a video on YouTube, but you just listen to it, this could be the way that you process the world. Or you can think kinesthetically, and that is all about your felt sense of just being a human, your body, your emotions. That's the way that you would experience the world if you're a kinesthetic thinker, okay? So I want you to pause for a minute and just take a guess at what you are. What do you think your dominant sense or modality is, okay? Visual, audio, kinesthetic. Just take a guess. Which one do you think is big? And it could be the case that you're balanced. I mean, I don't know. I'm not balanced, but you might be. I don't know, right? But take a guess, and then we're going to test it. So what I want you to do is get out a piece of paper, and we're going to write down a couple different things. We're going to rate ourselves when we go and play, okay? So you want to first have a control area. So this is where you're going to put on a backing track and improvise, or this could be playing a song. It doesn't have to be improv if that's not your thing, and that's totally fine. But I'm going to say this in the context of improv just to make it easy. In your control experience, I want you to play for like a minute or two, and then I want you to rate yourself. What was your level of presence? What was your level of enjoyment? And we'll say, how bad was your self-talk, okay? So that last one's a little bit opposite. So if you are very present, you would rate yourself like an 8 or a 9. And if you're somewhere in the middle, that would be a 5. If you find yourself very distracted, that would be like a 2 or a 3, okay? Your enjoyment is pretty straightforward. Did you have a moment or a lot of moments where you were really in it and having fun? And then finally, self-talk. What was your level of self-talk? We'll say that if you rate yourself like a 1, you're just beating yourself up and it's terrible. And if you're a 10, you're a Buddhist monk, okay? So 1 to 10, presence, enjoyment, self-talk. Now, What I want you to do is we're going to test out these 3 different modes, and we're going to write them down too and rate all of the different exercises that I'm going to give you, okay? So here's the idea for visual thinkers. And this is a little weird because we don't see a lot when we play harmonica, but when you play, I want you to look at your hands. Just do it. Look at your hands. And maybe you could try looking at your environment. Just use your eyes to get yourself grounded in the moment. And do that while you play. Same thing, you want to, just like the control, rate yourself. How present were you? How much did you enjoy the experience? And what was your level of self-talk? A 1 being a lot of internal chatter and beating yourself up, and a 10 being you're a Buddhist monk, okay? Then I want you to focus on your visualization abilities if you have them. Now, I said earlier that I have aphantasia, so when I close my eyes, it's black. I've actually kind of trained myself out of it. I'm probably one of the few people in human history that's been documented of doing so. But if you have the ability to visualize, I want you to close your eyes or keep your eyes open if you can and focus on your visuals while you play. The teacher that taught this to me, this was her best way of focusing. She would focus on her visuals when she would play, and she would do that, eyes open, she's playing, but she's really, looking at a colorscape in her mind. That's not how I function at all. In fact, I didn't even understand it when she said it until I realized that I was different than most people. Those are the visual exercises. So those 2, focusing on either the look of your harmonica or the look of your room, rate that, or focusing on your ability to visualize and rate that. Maybe imagine a scene in your head that matches up with the song and focus on the scene as you play and just see what that does. Next, we have the exercises for audio thinkers. And this could be you. I mean, you're a musician, but it may not be you. I mean, I'm an artist, but I don't focus on the world visually, like very, very, very little. So just because you're a musician doesn't mean that you necessarily focus on sound. So there's 2 exercises here. The first one is to focus on the sound of the music that you're playing over. If you're not playing over music, focus maybe on the sound of the room, or focus on the sound of another musician if you're playing with another person, okay? So don't focus on yourself, but focus on the sound of the music that you're playing over. The second part of this exercise is to focus on the sound of your harmonica. All right, so just all your focus is on the sound that your harmonica is producing. That's the audio exercises. So remember, you're going to write them down: presence, enjoyment, self-talk. Then we get to kinesthetic. For the kinesthetic, this is just to remind you, your sense of your body and your felt sense of emotions, okay? That's what we're going to practice. So the first time around, I want you to focus on your body. Now, when I did this the first time, I was playing guitar at the time, and I was focusing on my feet. And I thought that was weird, but I did it, and I was like, oh, that worked pretty well. Okay? So focus on some part of your body. I think for harmonica, a good thing to focus on is your breathing, okay? We have to be breathing all the time, so focus on your breath. That's probably a good way to do it. The second part of this exercise is to focus on your emotions. Take everything else in your brain, try to not, give that any room, and just focus on your emotional state. If you're playing over a good backing track, something that might stir something in you, this is even better because it's not that hard to focus on your emotions, hopefully, because you'll actually be feeling something. And if you've never felt that, where you're playing and you're really focused on your emotions, that is a game changer in and of itself and could be worth its own lesson. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to write this down. You're going to try all of these for yourself, and I'll have a list of them down below in the description, so you don't need to scrub through this video and take notes. So try this out and see how it changes between the different exercises. You might find out that your dominant sense is not the one that you thought it was. And if you go through this, hopefully, ideally, you'll find a way to pull your attention out of your self-talk and out of your worries for parts that are coming up in the future, or out of your thought about scales or about riffs. You'll be able to tone down all that noise and just be here now. And when you are, that's where music really turns into magic. Let me know how this goes for you. If you have any thoughts on any of these things, your own self-judgment when you play, what method you think was the best, let me know in the comments. I'm really interested to hear. So I hope this was helpful, and you should watch this video because it's a good one, and I'll see you next time. Peace.